מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם, הללויה, 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 Shabbat Shalom and welcome. I'm Rabbi Javier Carapan, and I am joined this evening by Leslie, Joel, Larry, Warren, and our technical team. A big thank you to our BOW committee for bringing us beyond our walls, and to our digital docents who are managing the streaming behind the scenes. For those of you here in person, we're calling the numbers in the square brackets, so please make sure also that your electronic devices are on silent. As we gather on this Shabbat, it's the very last Shabbat before Pesach, and in ancient times, this was actually the last Shabbat, really. Pesach was the beginning of the season because it's springtime, I think. Well, I don't know, looking outside.
You know what?
It's hard to tell some days, right? Spring is in the air. I think that is true.
Yes, if I watch the animals in my backyard, it is spring.
It's wonderful to have this Shabbat in spring as we welcome Shabbat together at home. If you have candles, we invite you to light them. And join us on page 120 as we recite the blessings together.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Shabbat Shalom. We continue together on page 121. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love. So we welcome Shabbat together. On page 130, we join in the words from Psalm 95, Lechu neranena. Lechu neranena, Lechu neranena, Lechu neranena, Adonai. Lechu neranena, Lechu neranena, Lechu neranena, Adonai. Naria, Naria, Letzuri Shenu, Mekadma Fana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzuri Shenu, Nizmirot Naria Lo. Lechu neranena, Lechu neranena, Lechu neranena, Adonai. Lechu neranena, Lechu neranena, Lechu neranena, Adonai. Page 138, we continue together with Lecha Dodi. We're singing stanzas 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9, all the odd numbered. Lecha Dodi, Nikarat Kala, Tenei Shabbat, Nekavela. Lecha Dodi, Nikarat Kala, Tenei Shabbat, Nekavela.
שמוע וזכור בדיבורך, השמיענו אל המיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמוע אחד, השם אותי ורב לי תהילה.
לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, ומצאי מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עליכם לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
התעוררי, התעוררי, גבעה אורי, קומי אורי, 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 שיר תברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך רגלה.
לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. והיו למשיסה שוסייך, ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס חתן על כלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי, לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
בואי לשלום עצרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי
דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בני שבת נקבלה. Yai lai lai lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai, yai lai 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 lai. Barechu et Adonai, Mevorach, Baruch Adonai, Mevorach, Leolam Vayet. Continue together in the middle of page 150. Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch Ata Adonai, Ohev Amo Israel. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malto Leolam Vayet. Ve'ahavta את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת. אמת. It is the month of Nisan. It is just 1 week from Pesach, exactly tonight. So, unless you've forgotten everything about Pesach, I think you'll remember this little melody. בוקע ים לפני משה ומרים, צליענו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. We read together in the middle of page 160. Grant, O God, that we lie down in peace, and raise us up, O guardian, to life renew. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, for your name's sake be our help. Shield and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Defend us against enemies, illness, war, famine, and sorrow. Distance us from wrongdoing. For you, God, watch over us and deliver us. For you, God, are gracious and merciful. Guard our going and coming to life and to peace evermore. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Israel, ve'al Yerushalayim. בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם, ברית עולם. Na na Adonai, ana na 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 sfatai tiftach, ana na 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 ufi yagid tehilatecha, ana na 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 Adonai, ana na 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 sfatai tiftach, ana na 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 ufi yagid tehillateicha. Na 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 Adonai. Na 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 sfatai tifta. Na 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 Ofi yagid tehillateicha.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי מתים אתה רב להושיע. מהשיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מחלחל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בר גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. יהיו לרצון עם רפי, והגיון ליבי לפניך.
this moment, we turn our thoughts to those in need of healing. Those of you joining us on Facebook Live, you can look up on the comments, either at the bottom on the side, wherever you have your comments, you can find the list there. And also the list was part of the e-news that you received this morning. We also invite you to offer names. You can type them in the comments. And here in our sanctuary, we'll go around and offer names. Let's turn this view. Thank you. We think of those in need of healing. We turn our prayers to those who are struggling with addiction and mental health. May the one who blessed our ancestors bring blessings of strength, compassion, and healing to those of us who struggle with the oppression of addiction, emotional distress, and mental suffering. Surround them with loving kindness, grace, and companionship, and peace. As we think of those in need of healing, we turn our prayers also to those who help in healing, health workers all over our city and the world during this pandemic. May those who care for the sick with their hands, their voices, and their hearts be blessed with courage and stamina. May those who pursue healing through medical skill and knowledge be blessed with insight, patience, and compassion. May all of us, the sick and the well, together find courage and hope. It is now time for our Simcha moment. If you are so moved to share a Simcha from this past week, you may type that in the comments. It may include birthday, anniversaries, and good news. Please use a few words and click return. For those of us here in person, we invite you to come to the Simcha mic. Tell us who you are, and please don't congregate in the front.
I'm Carol.
Surprise, surprise.
And my cat likes to run in the common area in my apartment building. And usually when I open the door, he's standing right there and he wants to come in. Today, he decided that I needed some exercise. And so we went down 2 flights, up 2 flights, down 2 flights, up 2 flights, 3 times. And at that point, I think he realized he'd better get in the door as soon as I opened it. So the thing is, I didn't pass out, and here I am. So yesterday, we took a trip the Good Faith Network. And we went to this beautiful mental health center, crisis center that they built in Lawrence, and they're planning to open it, I think, July 1st or something, and we got a preview. And it was so wonderful. So we now know what it is we want Johnson County to do. It really was fabulous. And I don't do well standing on my feet, and this was a tour. I think it took us an hour and a half. And we were finished. I was ready to sit down long before that. But it was worth it. It really was worth it. And they're doing all kinds of things. They're willing to take whoever shows up, and they're thinking that most of them, they'll be able to help them out until they feel better, and then they'll be able to go back home or someplace like that. But they do have places for people to stay. And they just thought of everything, and they've been working with this. It's so nice to hear about these things. There's these doctors in, I think they're in Arizona. They got one of these crisis centers built in Arizona. And then they decided that they wanted to help other communities build their own crisis center. And so they've been consulting, and they've been talking about, architecture and how to plan it. And what they did for the entrance room, you're used to going in and seeing these glass partitions. No glass partitions. What they did was have a very wide desk, and then behind that an even wider desk, so that there's no danger of anybody jumping over, but they also get a warm, welcoming feeling. And I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but it was so wonderful to see this accomplished. And it was accomplished by a group that's similar to our Good Faith Network, because they're the ones who trained us.
Thank you. This week's Torah portion is Parashat Metzorah, and it includes chapter 15. And it's, if you know anything about the book of Leviticus,
It's the fun book.
it's the fun book, yes. It can be. So in the Etz Chaim commentary, this is what the commentary teaches specifically about chapter 15 in the book of Leviticus. It says, once again, we encountered the notion of tum'ah, not as contamination, but as an encounter with mysterious life endangering, the mysterious life engendering power of certain bodily fluids, and with the life endangering dimensions of disease. Wow. I thought that was beautifully put. Yes. If you know what this encounter with the primal forces of life and death rule out other ways of entering into the divine presence. And some of the rabbis talk about in the Talmud about the fact that some of these portions that talk about purity are read normally leading up to Pesach, because if you are in the state of tum'ah, you are not of that impurity, you can partake on the Pesach, on the Passover sacrifices. That's why there's something called Pesach Sheni, a second Passover. Right. More later if you have a question about that. But in the Torah, a women's commentary, Rachel Adler, who is a contemporary theologian, writes, we must keep asking the Torah to speak to us in human language. This crude jargon, studded with constraints and distortions, silences and brutalities, that is our only vessel for holiness and truth and peace. We must keep teaching each other, we and our study partner, the Torah, all that it means to be human. Human is not whole. Human is full of holes. So human is not whole, W-H-O-L. Human is full of holes, H-O-L-E-S.
Nice.
Human bleeds, human birth its worlds in agonies of blood and belly aches. Human owns no perfect, timeless text because human inhabits no perfect, timeless contexts.
That's beautiful.
I mean, that's a different way of looking at all these diseases and things like that. It's just about our lack of perfection. And I kind of like it. I don't know if that's a simcha thing or what, but I like it.
Well, it makes poetry out of something potentially ooey.
Yeah, it is. It's a yaki. That's the word. That's a yaki part of the Torah, and I think she did a wonderful job making it a little more spiritual.
Yes.
At least it did for me. Now we gather all our simchas, and we share a prayer. Divine source of blessings, we thank you for everything that enriches our lives. We turn to you now with gratitude as we share in the happiness of those who have come forward to mark their birthday, anniversaries, good news, and accomplishments. Adonai, be with them now and always. May they be blessed with the strength to overcome sickness and sorrow, and with much health and happiness now and always. So we honor each one of you for the gifts that you bring to our sacred community. Together we join as we recite the Shehechianu blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehechianu vekimanu vehigianu lazman hazeh Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Shehechianu vekimanu vehigianu lazman hazeh You know, I usually don't look at the feed from Facebook, but I wanted to see if anybody wrote anything about KU. Nobody. I don't know. I guess nothing happened, right,
I think
last
that
week?
counts as a simcha around here anyway.
Well, but nobody said anything. Here, there, okay. I was like, how soon they forget. It's so surprising. I'm just saying, I'm not from Kansas, but I just thought that I would point out that nobody said a word about it.
I don't know.
Well, I had to say that doesn't count if I say that. Or the fact that we have a new Supreme Court justice, the first African American. A lot of simcha. Again, I'm just pointing out all the holes in. So it is a tradition that before the big holiday of Pesach.
I got a timer.
So it was a tradition in the shtetl at least that the rabbi didn't speak every single Shabbat, God forbid, but spoke once a year. And one of the times, of course, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, but also on the Shabbat before Pesach. And this Shabbat is also called Shabbat Hagadol, the big Shabbat. So on that tradition, then we are going to do a very short ask the rabbi about Passover. And you can ask about anything you want, but I do want to kind of take you in a certain direction. You may not want to go. It's okay. And Leslie will assist us with questions here so everybody can hear them at home. And then if they have any questions at home, we can hear them here. This is called multi-access. But before that, I want to share with you one or couple of quotes. But the first one is from one of my favorite Jewish thinkers. His name was Mordechai Kaplan. He died in 1983, and he's well known as a conservative rabbi, but also as the founder of the Reconstructionist movement. And by the way, since we are celebrating the 100th anniversary of the first Bat Mitzvah, it was him who did it. He founded the Society for the Advancement of Judaism in New York, the SAJ, and he did it with his daughter, Judith. So this guy has been in the news recently. He lived to be 103 or so.
Wow.
So he writes about Pesach. It is not often that an individual wants to be reminded of his humble beginnings, but that a nation in ancient times should glory in having been held in bondage by another nation is certainly an unrepeated phenomenon. And I am a big believer that the central holiday of Judaism is Pesach. I know we do a big hoo-hoo about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur in our synagogue. That came later. But the real holiday he speaks about what the Jewish people is about is the holiday, the festival of Pesach. And it's this idea, and there are many reasons why, but the idea that it is the descendants of slaves who created a world in which freedom, in all the ways that we can understand it, is at the center of our beliefs. Freedom to worship one God, freedom to have our own destiny determined by our own people. And I think that sometimes, especially in the Seder that can go hours, we kind of forget that it's about freedom, right? Because we feel kind of captive of the Haggadah and the story of the Seder and and the matzah. Don't get me started about it. It's my favorite holiday, but it seems a little oppressive. But I think that we should always remember that it really is about freedom and how important it is for us as Jews. So now, with that in mind, I will take any questions about Passover or Pesach. So I saw a hand over here already. I think we have a here, but you can ask a question and Leslie will repeat it.
Where?
Carol.
Yes.
Of course.
Carol takes issue with the quote. She does not believe that we glory in being having held in bondage, but that we glory in being freed from bondage.
Okay. And is that a question?
Yeah. I mean, this is a quote from Jacqueline saying that we are glorying in having held in bondage. I guess it's not a question, it's just
A comment. All right. Fair enough.
okay. Some families celebrate Pesach with eating lamb, and other households do not eat lamb at Passover. What is behind that particular?
Why
when
do
you
some
say-
households eat
Go on,
lamb,
sir.
and why do some households not eat lamb? What is the deal with the lamb?
Okay. So let me ask you just a question, a clarification. What do you mean some? Who are the some?
Well, my family always ate lamb, and another rabbi said that was the only thing they didn't eat.
So it's not necessarily a culture to culture, but for you, it's a personal experience of
Right,
your family.
right. So now I cannot explain your family tradition because I'm not part of your family. You're going to have to ask your family, like anybody else's family. But Carol said that a rabbi told her that you can eat anything but lamb. So there is a big distinction between two major traditions in what is served at Passover. And it's much bigger than just the lamb. But in certain areas of the world, and some people call that Sephardic, but I would call that non-Ashkenazic, because not everybody who lives in those parts of the world are Sephardic per se. They're non-Ashkenazic Jews. So in non-Ashkenazic communities, some have the tradition of eating lamb. In the Ashkenazic, and this is complicated because it doesn't have to be a community or a family he came from Central or Eastern Europe. It has to be a family who follows Ashkenazic, because despite the fact that the majority of the Jews in Central and Eastern Europe were of Ashkenazic descent, they were in those same areas communities that were not Ashkenazic, right? Because there were Jews from, I remember the story of a congregant I had in Fort Wayne, Alav Sholom, Moshe Saferstein. That was his name. His parents were from Warsaw, but his mother she belonged to the Sephardic congregation in Warsaw. And when she had to get married to his father, the rabbi of the Ashkenazic one would not believe that she was Jewish. She had to prove something, because these were Jews who had moved from Holland to Warsaw and started a little congregation. And so he was from, Ashkenazi. He was actually from Colombia, but, before that, he was half Ashkenazic and half Sephardic, but from Eastern Europe. So a guess, this is just a guess, that perhaps in your family, there was someone who came from a Sephardic background, and Sephardic in a very broad way, and so they had the lamb. But in the Ashkenazic community, it is actually frowned upon having lamb on Passover, because there is this tradition that in your house, you should never do things that were done at the temple. Like, we don't do things that were done at the temple in here in the synagogue, which reminds me of another story of Lima 2 congregations ago, when for several years we had, and this could have happened here too, but we had some gentlemen who will call the congregation to offer them a lamb at this time of the year for Pesach. And we respectfully declined every year. But he wanted to offer the congregation his lamb, that it was without any problem. So
We have an online question. Is there any proof that this actually happened?
The person who asked that question, it's hard to understand what this means.
What is the proof that the Exodus happened, that we were slaves in
the
Egypt?
Exodus.
And,
all right.
yes.
Well, so here's an interesting story. And I had to think about the question, because when I think about the holiday of Pesach, it's a complex holiday, and the Exodus is just one part of it. So it's not just that. But in terms of the Exodus itself, there's no historical evidence that the Exodus happened the way that the Torah relates it. So that's a simple answer.
Every now and then, I like to make something for the Seder that's a little different. A number of years ago, I made a Moroccan roast, really good, with dates and nuts, and formed into little balls rather than scooping out with mustard. What did you have in Argentina that was different than what we might have here?
Oh, that's
What
good.
did the rabbi have in an Argentinian Seder that might be different from what we typically have in the United States in an Ashkenormative community?
So, well, the Seder in Argentina was Ashkenormative as well, so no surprises there. But I often wonder, because I have this conversation, I have a good friend, Graciela, I don't know if she's watching, she is a culinary teacher, so she teaches, cooking and all that. So I often ask her about some of the things when I came to America that were so Jewish. And I ask her, it's like she's my expert on Jewish cooking, anything, that's all, she does a lot of that. And some of those things we have no idea how, because they didn't come from Eastern Europe. In other words, her grandparents came from Eastern Europe, the same that yours, yet they brought some things there and some things here. Of course, this is not Pesach, but in Argentina, there are no bagels. And they all came from, not only that they came from the same place, that we have proved that one went to Argentina and the other one came here, and still no bagels. Now, the big difference though, the real difference, and this is not your question, but I'm answering the question the way I think I interpret it, is that the really big difference between Pesach here and Argentina, you just heard me a minute ago talking about spring, is fall in Argentina. So the things that you associate here in your minds growing up Jewish, let's say, or learning later on in life with Pesach, for the way that I teach a class in Argentina, let's say, about Pesach, is totally different, because I have no nature reference, which also applies for Sukkot, right? Because Sukkot, we talk so much about the fall, and here there is springtime. Now, really, historically speaking, it was the immigration of the Jews for the very first time to Argentina that created that problem. Because Argentina is the first place in the Southern Hemisphere where there were Jewish communities established. So that was never a problem. Because, when they went to the Caribbean, that's neither chicha nor limonada, as they say in Spanish. It's neither one or the other. Because, their winter means rain and summer means dry. Yeah, they can still say the same things that they said here. But the first time that this is just a curiosity, if you want. The first time that there were Jewish, textbooks to teach children about Jewish holidays in the Southern Hemisphere, in Hebrew and all that, they were in Argentina. And we had to massage this in a way that it becomes natural to us, but it's totally different. It's all about something that happens somewhere else. So it makes it a little more distant, and it's just interesting. It's just so different in that regard. So good.
That's really interesting. I have another question.
Yes.
So we all know that numbers are very important in Judaism. And the person that asked the question has noticed the number 10 very few times. Is there a connection between having 10 plagues and 10 commandments in these two seminal moments of the Jewish people?
That's a good observation. I don't remember reading anything about that. I'm thinking about commentaries of that and all that. The thing about numbers is a little tricky because it could mean anything. In other words, I can tell you number 1 is really important in Judaism, but the rest is less so. And I mean number 1 because, there's one God. However, in the Seder, there's always a song about numbers, but the lists are different. So there we can't even agree on what number, what is 1. Well, no. Let's put it this way. 1, we all agree, is 1 is God, but 2, 3, 4, 5, you're on your own. There's the Yiddish version, there is a Ladino version, there's a Hebrew version. Everybody has 3, so. 7 too, yeah, my favorite number, but I'm biased, so.
30 seconds.
Really good timing, folks.
So I want to connect. I want to finish. It started with Kaplan. I want to finish with Kaplan, because the word glory maybe is not the best word, but this is what he really means. In the consciousness of the Jewish people, the bondage in which their ancestors were held in Egypt has been an ever-present memory, held vividly and related vitally to the entire context of their lives. There is only one explanation for this strange phenomenon. He thinks it's positive. The bondage is positive, is a positive experience because the remembrance of the bondage of Egypt and of the redemption from it has served as a means of signalizing the unique character of the God whom Israel worshipped. With Israel's serfdom in Egypt as background, Israel's God stands forth more sharply and luminously as the redeemer of the oppressed, as the liberator of the enslaved, as the defender of the weak against the strong. And again, this was written in 1934, and I think it still resonates today.
Very nice. It's a very yes and question instead of an either or, and I feel like if there's anything the Jewish people are, it's a yes and or a yes but. Yeah.
And you also live with Dave, so that makes sense. Thank you for your questions, and happy Passover, Chag Sameach, everybody. On page 586, if you're able, we invite you to join us in Aleinu L'Shabeach.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
נאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. נאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. As we prepare for our moment of remembrance, I invite you to turn to page 595. It is hard to sing of oneness when the world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone, and naught but memory can fill the emptiness their passing leaves behind. But memory can tell us only what we were in company with those we loved. It cannot help us find what each of us alone must now become. Yet no one is really alone. Those who live no more echo still within our thoughts and words, and what they did is part of what we have become. We do best homage to our dead when we live our lives more fully, even in the shadow of our loss. For each of our lives is worth the life of the whole world. In each one is the breath of the ultimate one. In affirming the one, we affirm the worth of each one, whose life now ended, brought us closer to the source of life, in whose unity no one is alone, and every life finds purpose. As a congregation, we are observing the Shloshim period for Ron Simons, brother of Linda Gephardt, Lloyd Hellman, husband of Judy Hellman, father and father-in-law of Rick and Teresa Hellman, and brother-in-law of Marcia and Larry Reedmaster. Kevin Casey Eichler, brother and brother-in-law of Kelly and Jim Kaplan. As a congregation, we remember the following yordzites: Ireno Bellotti, Sophie Boxer, Saul Brantman, Francis Butcher, Stanley R. Chambers, Arthur S. Chapman, Ray Cherney, Duana Linville Drollos, Teresa Estrada, Fred Fairchild, Florence Fine, Dorothy Frank, Samuel S. Fried, Sam Fried, Martin Gilges, William Goldman, Morton Hellman, Jerome Jerry Inger, Rose Inger, Herb Eisenberg, Julia Jacobson, Don Levine, Carolyn Nelkin, Sherry Nelkin, Phyllis Schmidt, Marvin Shalinsky, Mitchell Shesol, Hazel Stapleton. If you're visiting this evening and are observing a yortzeit, we invite you to share their names. Same online. Zichronam livracha, may the memories be for a blessing. Page 598, we join together in Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ובימיכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תוש בחתה ונחמתה, דאמירם בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל,
Time for some announcements. Aviva?
This is Aviva's song. The announcements are coming, they won't take too long. If you want to do Jewish, she won't lead you wrong. This is Aviva's song.
There are words now. And music. I'm a little surprised in a good way. All right, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you very much to Rabbi Katapan, Leslie Zucker, Larry Meyer, Joel Critchover, and Warren Sickle for all leading our service tonight. Thank you to Dave, who helped all of us all over the world to come together tonight online. And thank you to Scott Franklin and Ron Zipper for welcoming us all home tonight. A few announcements. Our Shabbat celebrations will continue tomorrow, Saturday, April 9th, when Schaefer Spiesman will become a bar mitzvah. So all are welcome to join us at 10:30 a.m. in person or online. Before that, at 9 o'clock a.m., we will have Sichat Shabbat, our Shabbat conversation with Rabbi Katapan, and all are welcome again in person or online. So it will be a full morning tomorrow, which is very exciting. We have many things happening this week, starting with our CBT gift shop liquidation sale on Sunday. So with immense gratitude to Kelly Kaplan and all of the many volunteers who volunteered their hearts to our gift shop, we are now going to take a piece of the Beth Torah gift shop home with each of us. So if you would like to join us in person, everything is 50% off. And it's really wonderful Judaica that now we can take home. So please join us 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. Later in the afternoon, we are hosting Potluck Productions, which is a playwright group here in Kansas City that Leslie is a part of. 3 until 5 p.m., $5 at the door to come in, and it does include adult content. All right, later in the week, we have virtual lunch and learn on Thursday, April 14th at noon. So join Rabbi Katapan on Zoom. All of the information is in the e-news and on the website. And then, believe it or not, the day after we're eating sandwiches for lunch and learn, it's Passover. So 1 week from tonight is the first night of Passover. We are having a multi-access congregational Seder. Technically, the in-person component has closed, but you know who to talk to. If you would like to still join us in person, the Seder will be live streamed on all of our virtual platforms up until dinner. So that way, when we're all eating dinner in our homes, we're not taking the laptop to the microwave or the stove. So that will work out well. Those joining us in person who RSVP'd, I will be sending you an email at the beginning of next week just with a few reminders. So we're all set for that. And speaking of Passover, we have many things going on, from Passover-themed song session to matzah pizza cooking class and many different worship services. So take a look on the website for all of that. And with Passover begins the Omer, the counting of the Omer from Passover until Shavuot. This year, we are counting our blessings as we count the Omer through a fundraiser. So please take a look on the website to learn more. It is a wonderful way to come together in community. And last but not least, thank you very much to Sharon and Jeff Altman for sponsoring To Go an Egg in honor of Kelly Kaplan and her years of dedication to the gift shop. And again, join us on Sunday so we can all take a piece of it home with us. Thank you.
We conclude our time together again with a taste of the Seder, singing Avadim Ha'inu. If you are able, join us standing. Avadim Ha'inu, Ha'inu, Atza B'nechorim, B'nechorim, Avadim Ha'inu, Ata B'nechorim, Avadim Ha'inu, Ata B'nechorim, B'nechorim, Avadim Ha'inu, Ha'inu, Ata B'nechorim, B'nechorim, Avadim Ha'inu, Ata B'nechorim, Avadim Ha'inu, Ata B'nechorim, B'nechorim. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Take care of each other out there.